Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Rise Up Rich podcast. I have a very special guest today, the only guest that I could actually bring into the studio because of the COVID-19 pandemic and social distancing. But I think she has an amazing story. She was able to kind of pursue a passion and have a ton of success doing that. And I'm talking about none other than my wife, which is Bree Haas Tattoos. Well, her last name's not Tattoos, but Haas. But she's getting out of her comfort zone today and coming on the podcast. But this is really kind of what this podcast is about learning how to push past those comfort zones, push past those belief systems, those barriers to achieving your own personal happiness. And whether she wants to admit it or not, I know that this is something that she was able to do in her life, and her success is a testament to that she's had in a very short period of time. So welcome, Bree, to the podcast.
Hey, took a pandemic to get me here. No other options.
Yeah, I had no other guest options. I had to bring her in. But yeah, it is about getting out of your comfort zone. She's also got our dog Sweets here for emotional support to get her through this thing. But it is true though. You were able to make an amazing career in a very small window of time with regards to, like, if I look at businesses, like you look at the business treehouse and how long it took me to build that business up, the amount of barriers to entry that there were to that business, meaning, finding location, doing leasehold improvements, and actually opening up, hiring staff, all this. And you were able to find an industry that you were passionate about and get into it and excel at a relatively quickly with regards to the standards of, what other people have been able to do. But I think the thing I want to start off on is kind of just talk a little about like your schooling and what you did after school and how you started figuring out what it is that you truly want to do in this world.
I'm going to come here all the time. You can pump my tires, say nice things about me. Get in this room. So my schooling, as you know, because we're super married, I have always been creative, but after high school, I went to university like the good child that I was. And I took marketing, kind of thinking it was more of like a creative marketing, like social media and creating ads and Photoshop and that type of thing. And if you don't know this, university marketing is more marketing strategies and the business marketing. So it wasn't anything I wanted to be doing really, but I was doing what all my friends did. So I stuck it out for 4 years, which was fine because I learned that I could cram a lot of information into my head and then regurgitate it onto a page. And if I really have to get something done, I can work all night, and, university taught me those things about myself. But hindsight, probably wouldn't have done it, but did it for 4 years, graduated like all my friends, got a job in a company that I'm not going to shout out because I hated it. And I worked there for a couple months, and I was completely miserable. It wasn't anything I wanted to be doing. You know how miserable I was. It was pretty bad.
Beyond. She had it was a roofing company that she worked for, and she had to get up at like 5 a.m. to be there for 7. And I think
if you weren't early, you were late.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, that is a thing.
No, it's not.
But
you're on time.
I think though what that did though for you though was just really highlighted, that this was not the world that you wanted to be in. Like, so sometimes we have to just go out there and start tasting, especially when you're young, when you're out of university, you're 22 years old, and it's like you're supposed to have this whole vision of what you are supposed to do. But a lot of us are we don't know. I didn't really truly figure out what I wanted to do with my life until I was, like 35. Right. So, for you to start, discovering that, even asking the question of like what it is I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So anyways, let's just move forward, because you were asking that question. Some of the things that you discovered that you're passionate about was obviously animals. I mean, you have a dog here right now. So
so I knew the two things I enjoy is being creative and doing art, and saving all the animals is my two things. So I still in the back of my mind engraved in my brain that art is not, you cannot make a career out of it. I did the other option, which is animals, and I went and worked in a vet's office, which just animals dying every day. It was my best friend works at a vet's office. She's my hero. I am not strong enough to do that. I came home crying every day. I quickly realized I'm not emotionally stable enough to work in a vet's office at all. So I decided to pursue art, basically.
Yeah, but it wasn't just like you decided to pursue art. Yeah, I think the big thing was that you had to start looking within to figure out what it was you were truly passionate about. And while you were artistic your whole entire life, becoming an artist was like not even on your radar. No. And that was because of, no fault of your parents, but they just wanted the best for you and they wanted to see you succeed. So they did what they wanted you to do what they did, which was go to school, get a good job, and have benefits. Yeah, right. And we have to do an aside on benefits, actually, just because I think it's important for people. Like we really get caught in these beliefs that things like benefits and job security are so important, but we don't have a belief that following what we truly want to do is the fucking most important thing to do, right? And you're like an ultimate testament to that, because when you followed what it is you truly wanted to do, everything really just kind of flowed for you. So I think the first thing was about like discovering, how did you discover that, art was like what really inspired you?
Why would you? That's a hard question.
Well, I can tell you the story, and I'll start the story because I know. I was trying to pull it out of you.
How do you know? I don't know. Okay, go.
Well, it's because after you had quit. I remember having the conversation with you. You were working in the roofing company, and you were just miserable. Like you hated your life, and I was like, just quit, right? But there was a lot of resistance to quitting because. You were worried about money and worried about you're not going to find another job and what are people going to think and all these things. We had to break down all those barriers. But then, you were lucky because you had good upbringing and your mother was able to install like good saving habits, and you had like a cash backup, which was one thing, which is an important highlight to say you got to have financial security in order to make decisions like this. So you have to save money, not overspend, not live beyond your means. And that's just something that you've learned how to do from childhood. So you had to come to this realization, I'm going to be okay if I quit my job. That was the first one, right?
Yes.
The second one was like, we had to search within you to figure out like where you really felt energy. And the only energy I ever remember you feeling during your time in university was when you took like an actual art course.
Art class. Yeah.
Right. So like just expand on that a little bit.
I took an elective in intercession because I had to get that degree done immediately. It was sucking the life out of me. And it was the best thing I ever did. I was, for the actual first time in my academic career, I'll say, I was excited to go to school. And I had these projects and I was drawing and painting, and it was pretty awesome. So I guess.
So it's just like, so I mean, just for people that are listening, it's just a matter of, I have this saying that I don't even know where I heard it, but it's like, we are here to remember what our soul already knows. And when we get connected to what our soul's purpose is, that's when we're going to find the energy and the abundance and the joy and the freedom and all of that comes along with that. So it's really because our soul, our essence, already knows it. It's really just a matter of asking and taking a look, and the truth will be revealed to you. So that's kind of like what you were doing. You were kind of like just searching. You were asking the question. You were having self-awareness and asking the question, like, what is it that I want to do? So art came on the radar. Yes. And then the second that you made this, and this is important, it was an intention. It was like, I want to do art, right? Right from that moment, everything began to flow. It went from force to like hating a job, going to a thing, testing out, tasting at the vet, thinking that you wanted to do something with animals, realizing you didn't, then to finally discovering this is what I want to do, and then just completely emerging yourself in it. And it was kind of happening simultaneously, but we're at the bar, and then what happens?
Yeah. And I was when I decided that, I started doing all the ads for the bar. I started doing pet portraits for my friend's Etsy shop, Fluff Pet Care.
Shout out. Fluff's always getting shout out on the Rise Up First podcast.
I started doing art for treatments that was happening.
You were painting art on people's windows?
Yeah, I was doing window art for like the holidays for businesses and stuff.
Yeah.
Basically anywhere I could do art, that's what I was doing, because that's what I decided that I wanted to be doing. And then in that time, a friend of mine was hanging out with a tattoo artist that worked across the street from Treehouse, and I got to know him, and he, I'm super grateful for him. He kind of, I guess, gave me the idea that I could make art into a living by doing tattoos. So he really guided me and gave me the tools that I needed to kind of make that transition from doing art in randomly, like pet portraits, all that, to kind of honing in on one thing and doing tattoos.
Yeah,
so
for
that
sure.
was sweet.
And then like that all just kind of happened organically. It was like, you're like, I want to do art, and then Tony at Garage Gym was like, hey, can you come paint a mural? Then someone that worked at a vet office said, hey, can you paint this? And it's like, you just kind of immerse yourself. And then when you met Dave and he kind of took you under his wing, that's when things really started to accelerate. And you had like a mission of like creating a portfolio, and you were drawing every day. And I mean, one of the things I specifically remember is that when you were really getting into it, you started to like just see inspiration all over the place. Like you would look at a leaf on the ground and be like, oh, like this would look so cool as a tattoo or as a drawing. And so like that's like described as like being in the field, like you're just connected. And I think that's where a lot of like the energy and creativity came from.
And yeah, basically when I made that decision and got in the field, things started flowing. I met the right people. The artist that I had met moved to a shop where my friend's boyfriend was working, and we became good friends with him. So yeah, I got to know him, and we started working together, and things really got started for me.
Yeah, everything just went from one. There was no force. It was just flow. Now there was some moments though, for sure, that you really had to fight through the self-doubt, and there was like a lot of belief systems in place. There was people that you didn't want to tell that you were becoming a tattoo artist, like your family,
my
like
dad,
your
my
dad,
very Italian
dad, right, who was going to. So you had to push past those. But what do you think allowed you to push past? The stigma of it, the letting go of like needing benefits and job security and all that kind of stuff.
That's a hard one too. I think definitely just knowing that this is what I want to be doing, and kind of realizing that I'm not going to be living my life to please other people is what ultimately gave me the ability to tell my parents, because I hid it for so long that I wanted to become a tattoo artist.
Right.
So that I just don't want to be living my life to please. I love my parents. I'm grateful for them, but I am not living my life to please them.
Huge.
At all.
Yeah, right.
I want to do my own thing.
Yeah, and I think for you, that's always been, one of your best qualities, that you live your life on your own terms, and you don't really care whether people think that you should be doing one thing or another. You're just like, this is what I want to do. I'm truly connected to it, and nothing is going to sway me from that, right? So you did have to work through it a little bit, but because that was already instilled in you, and because you are now connected to this passion, right, for art, and you can now see. I think another thing that would happen was that you could kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel now, like whereas before you couldn't see how you were going to make a living being an artist. But then as you got deeper into it, you got into the field, you could start to see like, oh, I can see how I'm going to become a busy artist. I can see how I'm going to eventually have my own studio, and you can start to see it. So that also increased the motivation. So that's just for people listening, it's just good to highlight, like, you need to have like a lighthouse, right? You need to have like a place where you're going. Which is the name of Bree's studio is Lighthouse Studio, which is actually kind of interesting. That's probably why that name came up. Is like you need to have like that beacon of where you're heading, because if you don't know where you're heading, it's very easy to get swayed by belief systems and family members and what people are saying in society, because you don't know where you're going. So you're kind of just like floating around in the ocean, no real clue. And then someone says, hey, come over here. And then you turn direction that way. But if you have your lighthouse, then whatever people are saying to you, you just keep motoring towards that lighthouse.
I agree with that. I can't expand.
Yeah. Okay. So now let's just transition though and talk about though, in a very short period of time, like a lot of people think, oh, she got busy so fast, which you did, but there was a lot of late nights drawing. Like you put a ton of effort, probably like a year and a half leading up to it, of actually tattooing people, but drawing a ton. So let's talk a little bit about the beginning stages and then how you transitioned it into starting to build a business.
I definitely think Instagram, obviously for everybody, I guess people are only posting what they want you to see. So no one sees the hard work, no one sees the planning and all that behind the scenes. And there was so much of that. Before I even released my Instagram, I was drawing like 10 drawings a day. I like creating this massive portfolio, creating flash sheets, doing fucking up my best friend's leg with tattoos, like doing all the things. Kara, love you to death. So then I started this Instagram after I had already put the work in, a little bit backwards than what most people do, but that's just what I felt comfortable doing. And I did that, and I built my entire business basically with the mindset of what would I want. And what I want when I'm getting a tattoo is I want to go to a nice place. I want my tattoo artist to be a friendly, nice, calm, like person who is fine with me being a little nervous, because it's getting a tattoo is nerve-wracking. I want my tattoo artist to be enthusiastic about what they're putting on my body. I don't want them rolling their eyes at me, like thinking what I want is lame or something like that. And I've all these things, and so I basically just do everything that I personally would want, and that's what I created my business around. Right.
And that's about staying authentic to who you truly are. And it's like when you connect to that authenticity, the power and the energy just comes through it. And that's when you move into like those states of flow, where things just flow from one stage to the next. And obviously there were struggles along the way, but you definitely were able to get into a state of flow really quickly. And you also had, you had like the whole fashion aspect of it in there as well. It's like two things that you're passionate about is art and fashion. And you merge those two things together on your Instagram page. But I think it says something when people see like your Instagram page is like, oh, this is a fashion, someone that likes fashion and likes the style, these kinds of things. That's who I want to get tattooed by, right? Mm-hmm. It's like someone that cares about style, I guess. I don't know. You can explain on that, I guess.
I just am really trying to not let people's opinions and stuff get in the way of how I run my business and the designs that I do and all that. And I'm just trying to be 100% authentic. And like an example, I guess, of that would be, I've never pictured myself as a heavily tattooed person. I'm not cool enough to be heavily tattooed. I think it's just not something I saw for myself. So when I started doing tattoos, I think people decided that I should get 2 full sleeves and be a super covered in tattoos tattoo artist, which isn't what I saw for myself. So I didn't do that. That's not like something I see myself doing. So I kind of tried to stay true to myself, and some people appreciate it and some people don't, which is fine with me. And then another thing is, in terms of the things that I'm doing, like I only want to be doing feminine, floral, animal, like things that I like. And I think that it really, people appreciate that anything I'm putting on their body, they know that I would put it on myself, which like you can see that. And I think people appreciate that, which is awesome, because at the beginning I was kind of just doing anything and everything I could get my hands on just to practice. And now I've gotten to a point where I'm only doing things that I'm 100% passionate and enthusiastic about doing, which is sweet.
Right. So let's talk. So then after about a year or so working in another shop, we made the decision together to open up our own space, which is good for me because I have my podcast studio here and my office as well, but also just getting a standalone shop. And so like this kind of transitions into like the business aspect of it, and growing up in a traditional place where you go to school, you get a job, people are so reluctant to make that leap to follow their true passion, because they get held on to things like benefits and pensions and all of these things. And what is kind of like your opinion on that? And especially, obviously you're married to me, who's been an entrepreneur since I was 9 years old.
This guy takes all the risks. Yeah. He really rubbed off on me.
So that risk, like, how do you see that risk now? Do you see it as such a big risk?
At the time, I saw it as the biggest risk, and it was, I had to put a down payment on, like, for rent. I had to fully renovate a place. I kind of had to go off on my own and face judgment of others. So, like, there was financial risk, and then there was also, I guess, social. Is that a social risk? So at the time it was huge, but now looking back, like investing a little bit of cash and kind of taking a risk of like being judged by other people was the best thing I could have done, because I'm making my own schedule. I'm doing what I love to be doing.
Right. But what about benefits? What about benefits though? You don't have any benefits. You own your own company.
Benefits. I would not be mad at a massage every now and again, but no, I'm just kidding. But like, I am not going to live my life and have personally, I mean, people like benefits, but I'm not going to live my life and work at a job that I don't like to get a couple $100 a year of free dental.
Yes.
Like that's
because when it really all comes down to it, and I remember like just talking you through this, is that it's like, you go to the dentist twice a year, it costs $125. You go to the chiropractor 10 times a year, it costs $40. It's like, if you want to go and get a benefits package, it's like $200 or $300 a month. It's just like, you're not going to end up using that many benefits, so it's just like. And
the benefit of working a job that you love and not being stressed and being full of anxiety and all that is probably long-term. You're not going to need as many medical benefits if you're not a ball of anxiety and all that.
And like, what about pension though? Like, you don't have a pension.
I do not have a pension. It's kind of a bummer. What?
But the answer I was looking for there was that you just create your own pension. Yeah. Right?
We have a savings plan in place. Like, we don't need a pension, which is basically forcing someone to save money. Like, we've just made the decision that we're going to do it ourselves. Right.
And I think one of the biggest things, like, I think for us as a couple that we've done is that we just don't live above our means. We live like super, super below our means. We
Mr. Noodles every night.
We're not that bad, but I know, like, it helps. I think both of us, like, we're both not like partiers. I mean, anymore. And so we don't both. I don't drink at all. You pretty much don't drink anymore either. So if we go for dinner, even if we do go for dinner, it's like, dinner for two with appetizers and dessert.
$40 if we're really balling out.
Yeah, it's like hard for us to spend like over $50 at a restaurant, and so we very early on in our relationship made the decision that we were going to continue to live below our means for a certain period of time, so that we can make leaps, and that's what we've done. Like, we lived below our means in our first house and didn't go out and spend a lot of money, and we focused a lot of that investment on putting that money back into that house. That gave us, because we weren't spending the money that we would have been spending on the renovation, like going out and partying and doing these kinds of things, living below our means. We drove used cars. Like, we weren't like balling. We recently just bought our first new car that I personally bought in like 10 years. Right. So,
I'm still on the used car life.
Yeah, Bree's still on the used car life. But because we did things like this, it provided opportunity for us. One of the opportunities was we were able to open up this shop, right? We needed cash to start this shop up, right? Like, you're working at another shop where it had 50% commission. You're only making 50% of the income that you were bringing in. It's like, it's a very easy business decision to say, I'm going to go and start my own thing. But you need to have the means to do that, right?
Yeah.
And because we lived below our means, we were able to do that, right? And then that created another opportunity with our house too, right? Just because the market went right back up. So you can maybe talk about that a little bit.
How we got this new house?
Yeah.
My mom forced us to move. We'll get it. We moved into our old house, which was below our means, and we lived there and we did renovations here and there. We lived in a renovation zone for 2 years. We had a door as our kitchen island. It was crazy. And we did that. We did the work ourselves, and I'm not good at doing anything like renovation wise, but I learned. I painted and I drywalled, and you did you did the major stuff. Took down walls, and because of that, we were able to not flip that house because we lived in it for a while, but we bought another house that needed some work and now we still live in a house with a cheaper mortgage than we could afford.
Yes.
But we're saving and we're doing things. We have plans for the future. Right.
Yeah, and all of that was created. Like, that wouldn't have been created if we wouldn't have lived below our means. You wouldn't have been able to open up this shop if we weren't living below our means. Just live below your means, and then when you do that, it allows you to make leaps. We leaped from living in, like, my first house was a duplex on Hickory, which is wasn't in the greatest neighborhood, but we made the leap from there. Probably even that was a little bit of a struggle for us at that time to buy that house. But then when we got into that house, we made the decision together that we were gonna renovate this house and use our money to invest into that house. And so by living below our means for 3 or 4 years, it allowed us to make another leap into our house now. And then it also allowed us to open businesses
and expand your current business.
Yes, exactly. Right. So, and that all came from, and so Bree and I financially have always had and we actually really complement each other with that, because I'm like the spender and she's like the saver. So
as cheap as they come.
Yeah. So it helps. And the thing I think is important for people listening though, is that I don't think it's really affected our lifestyle. I mean, you mean people look to you for fashion advice?
I would say it's allowed us to do the things we want to do by living within our
100%.
means.
We go on a month-long vacation. Yeah, definitely. 100%. When you're constantly just buying things all the time, you end up never really buying anything.
Yeah.
That's a good little analogy. That should be a quote there for Instagram. But anyways, so I think the main thing that comes from just the conversation with regards to how you created your business was about identifying your passion, staying authentic and true to yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
That I credit to the majority of my success.
And then when you follow your passion, you have the energy to push past the barriers that are going to come up because as you get out of your comfort zone, things are going to come up. Yeah. And if the why isn't strong enough, then you're going to get off track really easily.
Yes. And it almost happened a few times, but luckily with you and with my why being strong enough, it didn't.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, because you had a lot of struggles in the beginning. The big thing I think you had to worry about that you struggled with the most was self-doubt, that you're not good enough, which is something that to me, I'm like, how you say that? I see the stuff that you do, and I'm like, it's amazing, but because you want to make sure you do the most amazing work, you're kind of a perfectionist in some ways, which I guess is a good quality to have as a tattoo artist, because it is permanent and forever. So, but there is there's still struggles that you have that you're still working through. But I think the big thing is the why is important enough, so you keep pushing through. Cool. The other thing that I think people would really benefit from like having you here is talking about health a little bit, right? Because I think one thing that you've been able to do is like be able to stay like insanely healthy, right? You didn't buy into the programs of society like, oh, like wait till you hit 25, that's when you really start packing on the pounds, or after you have a baby, that's when you're really going to gain weight. And you've been able to defy those odds. What's the secret? What did you do differently?
Go vegetarian, kids. No, I'm just kidding.
That's part of it, though.
No, I've always been, which I don't know how I've managed to be that, an eat to live person, not a live to eat. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
In my Italian upbringing, it's crazy because my parents they make all the pasta and cannolis and gnocchi and all that. But I've managed to really just view food as fuel rather than I don't really eat to celebrate or eat when I'm sad or anything like that. I just eat to fuel my body and move on with my day.
But I think that's like a very, you said it in kind of passing, but I think that's a very important insight there, is that you don't use food as a coping mechanism. Food to you is just fuel. And for me, it was really hard to overcome that food was a coping mechanism for me, that when I was feeling stress or when I was feeling happy or when I was feeling down, I was going to sugar or whatever. So I had to work through those. And you have just been able to...
my nail.
Yeah, well, that's your one thing. But she picks her nail. But I mean, that's just like one thing. But I just think that's a really great realization that you wanted to highlight. It's just that food is fuel for you. It's not this bigger thing. It's not like about getting together with family and making food like this big gigantic national pastime now, right?
Yeah.
It's really about just fueling the body and putting healthy foods, live foods into your body, because you do eat a vegetarian diet.
Yes.
We eat a vegetarian diet.
Trying to go vegan. It's happening.
It's gonna happen.
Quarantine's really made it happen.
Yeah. We basically eat a vegan diet, but we're not strict on it. So like we go out for dinner or we go to Nono and Nona's house, like we eat some dairy, but we're getting there. It's gonna happen eventually. It all comes back to like compassion, and when Bree and I met, one of the things I think that's interesting is that I think the thing that really connected us the most is that we were both vegetarian at the time.
Yeah, everyone thinks I converted him. I didn't do it.
I was veg long before. I've been veg since 2005. So I was veg long before I ever met Bree. But though, it was one of those things that really clicked for us, that we had a common connection there, which for me, just to talk about vegetarianism a little bit, is that for me, I went veg for the health benefits, that I could see that the way I was eating, the lifestyle I was living was eventually going to create negative, symptoms, negative, whatever. It was going to be negative on my life. It was going to affect my body. I was going to die of cancer or heart disease. And I was like, I got to do something different, right? And for you, though, you went veg because of the animals.
I did.
Yeah, right. But I think, though, we can circle this whole thing back, though, because a lot of this is about self-awareness. And the more self-awareness that you create, the more interconnected you feel to all, right? And ironically, for most people, it happens with animals before it happens with humans. So I would say that you're probably connected more to the animals, and the humans you're still working on.
I have a hard time feeling compassion for people. A more difficult time being compassionate towards all people, rather than towards all animals.
And that's what happens. But as you go down, as you grow spiritually, you begin to feel that interconnectedness. And now, for me, then what happened was, as I grew spiritually, I began to feel that connection, and that's why I made the decision to not eat meat. I made the decision not to eat meat. Sorry. It enhanced my decision to not eat meat.
You cut out fish.
After we got more connected and cut. So I think that's, with regards to health, do you want to get any more specific on the way that you eat at all, or exercise? You're not a big exerciser.
Do not care for exercise. It's not what I enjoy doing.
But what's your rationale behind that?
Tony, if you're listening, he's going to kill me. I just think that you're never going to outrun a bad diet
Yes.
or out-work out a bad diet.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say I'm lazy, but I'm just not motivated to work out. And to
Right.
me, passing on a donut is so much easier than running for an hour. Like, I just can't. It's easier. I don't want to run.
Yeah.
I will run, but I don't want to.
Yeah, but I think that's a really good way to do it. I mean, if you ever look at the calories in a donut, it's like 200 calories, and then try and burn 200 calories on the treadmill. It's like you're on the treadmill for like 30 minutes or something.
Yeah.
it's maybe not 30. Maybe
I still
20.
exercise
Yes.
and get my body moving and do that for the health benefits, but I don't want to be trying to catch up to a bad diet. I would rather be doing the bare minimum exercise and just eat healthy.
But I mean, it's each his own, but I mean, it's worked for you, and you were able to lose all the weight after having the baby, and you've been able to maintain pretty much the same body weight ever since I've known you. Mm-hmm. So
you're welcome.
Yes, thank you for that. The other thing that I think that we could just touch upon, there's two more things that I always want to touch upon. The one is about the whole COVID-19 crisis, and about not retracting or not shrinking during this. So, obviously, I've been pushing that on my social media a lot. It's like, this is a time to expand. It's like, don't shrink. And I think you've taken that to heart as well. What are you been focused on during this whole thing?
I have some projects for work that I've been working on, but I haven't released them yet. And I also have just been taking this time to get creative and do things that I wouldn't typically be doing in terms of drawing. Like, I've kind of gotten to a point in I guess tattooing that I work all my tattooing hours of the day, and then I come home and I'm just drawing tomorrow's appointments, or I'm pretty much exclusively drawing tattoos. Mm-hmm. So now I've gotten back to just being creative to be creative, which has been awesome, and it's given me I'm so bad at talking. It's given me business opportunities, basically, which I unintentionally, I was just doing it to get in the creative field, and now it's I got
people are connected to the drawings that you've been doing, and they want to book appointments with you and all that, right? So so it's just about staying creative, and what do you think staying creative is all about for you? I think creativity is something that is really lacking in today's society, because Facebook and Google, they know so much about us that they kind of take our creativity away, because we think we're being creative, but we're really being guided by ads from Facebook and Google and stuff like that.
We're all kind of pooling from the same ideas.
Right. So how do you step out of that? How have you been able to?
Yeah, I look still on Pinterest, Instagram, and all that stuff for inspiration, and then also just in, like you said before, in my day-to-day life, just inspiration when we go for runs or walks, and in the Ojibwe or wherever, and I'm always looking at leaves, looking at the aesthetic of things, architecture, literally anything. And then I'm not amazing at it, but you've got me into meditating and trying to come up with 100% creative ideas by kind of getting in the field of creativity. And so that's something I've been doing.
Yeah, and I also think, though, that you're creative, and why this time has been more creative for you is because it's eliminated all the noise for you of your day-to-day job, even because usually you're spending 8 to 10 hours a day, you're 5 hours tattooing, and then you're coming home and drawing for 3 or 4 hours, right? So you wouldn't be able to do that unless you were passionate about what you did, which we've already highlighted. But because you're in it, you're just in it, you're drawing, I think just being in the field starts to generate more creativity. It's I always, when I was a kid, to give a quick little story, I wanted to be a stand-up comedian, which is funny because I'm not very funny anymore. but that's what I wanted to be. In the grade 8 talent show, I did a stand-up comedy act in front of the whole school. I wish I had that on videotape. That would have been amazing, a flashback. But what I found was, even as an 8-year-old, I had the awareness that the more in tuned I was to jokes and what other people were doing, and the more I just the more inspiration I found, and I just was, because I was in it, I just started finding funny jokes in every day-to-day things, and you have to be in the field, and the intention has to be set and pure. It can't be wavering. It has to be a true intention. And I think that's what you have, right?
Yeah, I do things that I truly am passionate about doing, and I come up with 100% creative ideas, and from there I always kind of end up making like a series of things. Like if it's drawing and I do, I mean, this doesn't sound original, like a bird on a leaf or something like that, I'll come up with 5 different ways of doing that, because once I'm flowing, it kind of like keeps coming.
Yeah. And I think
that's
flowing
like the strategy I stick with, I guess.
Yeah, and I think flowing has been like the pinnacle of your whole entire tattoo career and your success to this point, is that, you just went from a state of force where, I think out of business school into a job that was all force. I need to do this to make money, and this is what you're supposed to do, to a state of this is what I want to do. I'm connected, I'm passionate, I have the intention. And it's just like it goes from a state of flow, right? And you're even detached from the outcome. It's just like, if people want to get tattooed by you, great. If they don't, that's fine too, right? You're just like, if it's like, you're not going to tattoo a tribal on somebody. It's just not what you do, right? Yeah. Okay, good. The last thing I think it's important for us to talk about, because I don't know if people want to know about it or not, but it's just like, is this parenting? And we obviously just had a baby 8 months ago, and I just think the whole process has been an amazing moment to reflect on how I was raised personally and how I want to raise our daughter Harlow. And I think for me, it's just about allowing her to be who she truly is, right? And like, what do you think our plan is for that? We haven't actually really had we've had passing conversations, but we haven't sat down and really communicated.
Yeah, I think personally, I don't know if you agree with this, is our plan is to kind of let her try everything, but I think both of us, we were what is it, jack of all trades, but the master of none thing. Yeah. I want her to experience all the trades, but then really hone in on one thing, or at least that's what I'm going to encourage her to do. Yeah. So, and without judgment, if she chooses a sport or whatever that I am personally not into, that's fine, as long as that's what she's tried everything, she knows that this is what she wants to be doing, and she'll focus her attention on that. Like, I think that would be our plan, right?
Yeah,
and
I think
not
so.
even a sport, like career-wise,
But I also think though it'll all be within reason as well. Like, if she wants to be a basketball player but she's only 5'1", we're gonna have to bring in some reason into there, right? But really, what we want her to do is figure out what she's passionate about, and where her strengths are, and then nourish those strengths, and not judge her if she decides to go on a different path, but give her the tools. Like, I like to think about this, like, my career as like a hockey player when I was a kid, because I didn't have like my dad wasn't like a sports guy and didn't like really push me. But I think if I would have been pushed more, I could have made more of myself in hockey. But
could have married an NHLer.
Like, like maybe I had that potential. I don't know. But I think the big thing that I really want to highlight, I think, was what we're going to do, is that whatever she decides to do, we're going to support it all in. Like, if she wants, like, I just saw a video of the guy I went to grade school with, he's got a kid that's like this all-star hockey player. Yeah, and he's got this whole basement, and it's like, he made like a little ice rink in his basement. It's not ice, but it's just like where a kid could shoot pucks, and it's like there's boards and glass and the whole thing. It's like, that's what we're going to do. Like, we're going to fully support her and allow her to put the effort in that's necessary to excel. Because I don't know why I'm on hockey, but if you want to be an NHL hockey player, you can't just go to practice once a week and play a game once a week. You need to be in it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like where you are with tattooing. It's like, you're in it. When you decide to make the decision to become a tattoo artist, all you did, eat, sleep, and drink, was tattoo, right? You were just like drawing every day, tattooing when you could.
And I also think that we're going to teach her, like, yes, she needs to play on her natural abilities, but that hard work is like more important than, I think, natural talent. Like, of course,
100%. Yes. And the hard work can only come though is if you have removed those barriers
Yeah.
and the passion is there, right? If you try and I tried to just work hard at making money for the better part of my life, and it didn't pan out for me, right? But now that I'm connected to my passion, I have the energy to put that effort forth, and because my why is right, right? That's what is really shining through, and I've let go of the outcomes. Like, this is what I'm going to do, making this podcast, coaching people, doing events, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. When you have that type of energy, it's like it's a complete game changer. So I think it's just about nourishing that, allowing her to connect to who she truly is, allowing her to explore her feelings and feel them fully and not repress them or suppress them to impress us, and just be her true authentic self, which is kind of come full circle to what you did in your own business. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So I think we'll wrap it up there. I mean, I'm sure that you and I could do another podcast. We could do one on relationships and how we deal with our own relationship, how we see it. We touched upon it a little bit with regards to our financial, but I think there's a lot of other things that we have done that have allowed us to have a pretty amazing relationship,
live together, work together, work out together.
Yeah, we do a lot together. And we never get sick of each other. We still feel like our relationship is new, which I think, we've been dating for almost 10 years now. So married for 3 almost. Yeah, married 3 this year, right? Yeah, married for 3, dating for 10, and I think there's still the energy and the passion and the fire is still there, and I think that's kind of unique, and people would probably want to know more about that. So maybe we'll do another podcast on how to build an amazing relationship.
I'll be there.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on. And it was good for you to get out of your comfort zone. And
My whole body.
What do you got to say to all your clients and everything as well about COVID? Because I think there's an announcement to be made there about what you're doing for them and what the plan is.
The plan is I haven't rescheduled anybody that kind of plan.
Yeah, that's the plan. Yeah.
I haven't rescheduled anybody because I have no idea when I'm open, so I don't want to reschedule people from a month from now and then have to reschedule them again. So I've been keeping people posted weekly. When they have an appointment the following week, I'll shoot them a message. And then when I am allowed to open, which hopefully is soon because this is terrible, I'm gonna get people in as close to their appointment date as I possibly can. I'm gonna come in on my days off. I'm gonna come in. I'm gonna work nights. Sorry, you're watching the kid, I guess. And I'm gonna get everybody in as soon as I can. So
so it's just about adapting and
everyone's been super cool and understanding.
Yeah, amazing.
Thankfully,
Amazing. So thanks again for coming on. It's great having you. Just a reminder, every single Wednesday, I release a new podcast. I'm going to try and get some guests on here. I'm going to do some Zoom calls and that kind of thing as I can. Make sure you tune in. You can follow Bree on Instagram at Bree Haas Tattoos. For all her clients, that's where she does most of her updates with regards to what's happening with the COVID-19. But it's about, following your passion, being truly authentic to yourself. And that's going to give you the energy that you need when the barriers get in your way. So thanks again for taking the time to listen. Thanks for joining me, wifey. And we'll see you next Wednesday.